So I definitely don't want my channel to become something where I just react to what other big YouTubers are doing and criticize them for views. Not at all. But because Hamza did say he wanted this, I'll do it a little bit because a recent video he released, I think is like an actually extremely interesting time capsule of the era in which we live and how people are reacting to the changes that are taking place. So in this video where Hamza talks about why he wanted to move to Dubai, and how it's not safe in London and he feels endangered and his health was worse and the modern West is so degenerate, etc., etc. Those are things that I mainly agree with. Like, the crime rates are rising. There is like a huge degenerate undercurrent or overcurrent in a lot of Western culture. But the problem is with both him and like Iman Ghazi and other people like that who are just moving to Dubai is, I think that impulse to move to a place like Dubai is in fact part of the degeneracy. Can you imagine if when, say, the Nazis were taking over Europe, but had not taken over Britain yet, and basically people in the UK were like, oh man, like it's not safe in the West anymore. Like this evil wave is passing over us. Our lives are gonna get worse. We need to run away. Let's run to America. Let's run to the Middle East. Can you imagine if they had done that? Like literally bombs are falling down on their heads. And instead what they did is say, this is England. We're English. We're going to stand up for this. And this is not about like an ethnic thing at all. This is about having some common sense of shared identity, some common cause, some belief in shared values. And it's the lack of this that's the root of the degeneracy that Hamza and Iman Ghazi talk about. And yet, they clearly have no sense of shared identity, because as soon as things get hard, as soon as like something bad is happening and the quality of life in the West drops, which it has, not horribly as long as you're not extremely poor, but it has certainly dropped in many ways in many places. But the solution to that being, let's move to Dubai, where there's a whole other other set of crazy problems, which you could also call degenerate, like a skyscraper that's designed in such a way that they have to like cart all the waste out on trucks, and it's like empty and it's just there to show off wealth, which is basically gathered by a welfare state, wherein many people don't work because the money is just brought up from the ground in the form of oil. I mean, talk about like the Jeffrey way of life. I can't imagine a more Jeffrey thing than being born into wealth, relying on servants, and just living without actually developing a business much. And of course, this is a huge generalization. There are many, many great people there, and this isn't just like everyone. But the idea that you're escaping Western degeneracy for the great, beautiful city of Dubai, I think is ridiculous and honestly a little bit cowardly. To say that just because things have gotten a little bit worse, it's time to leave. Because if you're doing that, you're making a very conscious choice. Like Hamza and Iman, they're saying, it's over, guys. We've given up. We're leaving. But I just don't think things have gotten that bad. We're at the point where certain people can look at the West and say, well, there's this problem, we're heading in a bad direction. And these people who are powerful, and I'll say, I'm definitely not there yet. I want to like help and change things, but I'm definitely not there. I'm not rich or anything like that. The fact that people that are in a position to know that this is happening and maybe do something about it are just running away, it seems really sad. And it seems like it's that form of degeneracy that will doom us more than any of these other ones. We can come back from ridiculous music that's kind of hollow, which, you know, some people still enjoy, and I do on occasion. We can come back from, you know, more and more like low investment relationships, higher rates of like casual sex and all these things that have bad results, even though lots of people think that they're like good for them. We can come back from those things and course correct still. And if you don't think that we can, like really, really consider that decision, because you're saying we're done. It's time to leave the West. The world is gonna change and just like degenerate for like the next century or something. But we can come back from those things, I think. What we cannot come back from are people that understand these problems and are actually intelligent enough and have enough resources to do something about it, running away to Dubai. Do you really think running to Dubai is the solution? Do you think that is gonna help the men that you claim to want to help? Is it? And that was a top comment on that Hamza video, was a guy saying like, it's really weird watching this from my dark basement, knowing how big the gap is between rich or poor. I mean, imagine how it would be if you were like a Filipino worker who's working in the Philippines or working in Dubai for very, very little money watching that video. I mean, that gap is massive, and that gap is there in the West. But I think the sort of idea that they're equivalent is very strange, because the problems in Dubai and the problems in the West are totally different, of a different kind, and you're really just exchanging one for the other. You're exchanging homelessness, casual sex, higher crime for what is literally like a theocracy, like an old style medieval theocracy, though it is liberalizing to a degree, and beautiful big buildings, which are mostly empty streets, because it's so hot, and also because of the urban design. Like, the trade you're making, I just don't see how it's noble in any way, unless you're really at the point where you think it's over and you want to abandon everyone in the West, all the men that you want to help, all the people you think that have a good future and could turn this thing around. You just want to leave and give up. I think it's fascinating, and it's really scary to see someone like Hamza, whose whole image, his whole life is about, how do I help modern, mainly Western men, but really just modern men, like anywhere, that have these modern problems of like digital addictions, problems like connecting with communities and women and those things. How can I help them live a better life? And how can I collectively help the world go in the right direction? And if those people are giving up and moving to Dubai to ride jet skis and look at the big buildings and how clean they are, and say that because there's no graffiti, that this is like a better civilization, then we're in really big trouble. And I'm quite scared of what might come if that's the direction. If every person who's smart and rich and who cares about this just leaves, then where are we? That's all.